Welcome to Q&A. This is your chance to get any questions that you have in regards to growing your consulting business, your coaching business, anything in the course that you're confused about. Now's your chance to do it. We're going to be here every week. So as an added bonus, that's what I want to provide to you to make sure that you feel supported on this journey that you're on. And I also want to hear your stories, because for me, it's a lot of fun learning from people as they're growing their business, if they're scaling it. I can help you avoid a lot of mistakes I made and just help you accelerate that process of finding success. So most of what you hear me talk about is going to be things I messed up on, but luckily you don't have to, and there's no hacks whatsoever. You are going to have to work hard, but it doesn't have to be so confusing. And that's my goal here. So what I want to do is just start taking a look at some of the questions that we have here. Rick, welcome. Xavier, welcome. And go ahead and get started here. So first question is, will I be discussing content creation? At a high level, I can do that right now. If you have any specific questions, that's going to be really beneficial. But that's something I mentioned earlier. I'm actually training a team of consultants in Canada on how to better leverage content marketing to attract clients to their agency. They're not individuals, they're an agency. And then from there, attract clients to them. And I did some research. It was through Salesforce, actually. When you're referred to a company as a service provider by someone internal, the conversion rate can be up to 14%. Whereas if you come through other channels, so search, social, ads, so on and so forth, it's much lower. So as a consultant in this case, the more content you have that solves problems, that answers questions, you can attract people to you, and you're much more likely to convert those individuals. So on my end, I think, what's the most impactful thing I can do with my time? It's often answering questions like I am right now. So if you have specific questions around that, I'd love to hear you. But I mean, what I normally say is, if you're stuck, like, where do I even start? I just say, think of 10 questions that your audience has and answer them, right? So I used to do digital marketing consulting back in the day, which was like 2 years ago, so it wasn't that long ago, or 4 years ago. And common questions would be, what channel should I be on? How much should I budget? What's a Facebook pixel? So on and so forth. You would just create content that answers those questions, right? And it goes deeper than that too, right? You do want to show your personality eventually. That's how you grow a personal brand. But just starting off, if you're kind of on the fence, like, I don't know if I can do this or not, just start by answering questions. And it's one of the best ways to do it. So let's get some more questions here. This one's from Rick. How critical is your personal name in branding for consultants and coaches? I ask because I already have my personal name for my art, my oil painting. Rick, it depends. And I know that's what all digital marketers would say. It depends, right? It depends on where you want your business to go. So if you plan on being a solopreneur, I think there's an advantage to using your name, and I'll go into that. I'll go into why momentarily. If you want to expand your business, you want to have a team, then it might help to have a name that reflects the fact that it's not just an agency of one or a company of one. But where it's beneficial to use your name is that's how you grow your personal brand, right? Because when I first started consulting, I wanted some generic sounding name. So I live in Brooklyn. I did digital marketing, so I called it Brooklyn Digital Marketing. And part of it was me just trying to pretend like I had a bigger company than I did. But I also want to be somewhat, I don't know, anonymous or something like that. But as soon as I changed it to Terry Rice Consulting, that's when I started getting more speaking gigs. That's when press would reach out to me for interviews, so on and so forth. That's how I built my brand. So if you're doing painting, maybe you have one which is, Rick's Painting, the other one's Rick's Consulting. There's nothing wrong with using your name and then post-pending it with something else that's more relevant to, the actual delivery that you're doing with that company. But I think it would behoove you to keep it consistent with using your name if your goal is to more or less remain independent. So that would be my advice. It's also on your website. You don't have to keep on saying, we do this. Like, no, it's me. Like that's it, so it's a lot less confusing for you and for anyone who's reading your content. So that would be my suggestion. All right. So another question from an anonymous attendee. All right, cool. So there's like 5 of you here. Anyways, can I talk more about the 3C model and how to price it accordingly? Yeah, I'd love to. So the 3C model is something I developed where you have a course, which is your core content that you can sell independently on a platform like Teachable. right? So you obviously all know what that looks like. You're all in the course. So X amount of modules, videos, activities, worksheets, and you have that one-page business plan as well that I hope you all started filling out. And then from there, if you want, you can leverage that same content to have a group coaching program. And the benefit of that is all the content is pre-recorded in the course. So when you're having your coaching calls, I do mine twice a week. We have one call on Monday and one call on Thursday. All the content on how to write a speaking topic, how to reach out to people on social media, how to write a sales page, how to ask for a testimonial from a current client, how to keep your clients happy. All that stuff is in videos already that are in the course. And again, you all have access to that as well. So the benefit of that is during your live coaching calls, you're not explaining things. You're going to the details, but you're not saying basic stuff like, here's how you write a positioning statement, or here's how you write a biography. You're saying, okay, well, Walden, you had questions about your biography. Let's talk about that now, because we might all learn from it too. All right. So it takes a lot of pressure off you to get through content that you're teaching during these sessions. And you can just ask questions or answer questions, which makes for a much more fulfilling environment, in my opinion. And the last C is consulting. And that's more like white glove assistance. So someone's saying, look, I saw the video, talked to you in these group calls. I need someone to actually help me write my speaking topic. I need something to help someone actually help me write the content for my website. Sit down with me and help me with my prospecting, so on and so forth. That's when maybe you're giving someone more time. Maybe you're meeting like once a week with them and they have more access to you. So those are the 3 C's. Again, it's having a course, then doing group coaching, and then also doing consulting, which is more one-on-one. And you would price that as a premium. So normally you would say it's going to be 3x to 4x, whatever the course is for individuals. And then your online course, that's up to you, kind of depends on what you're doing. Mine is $297. I wanted to have it affordable for people that can't afford my other rates for my other programs, because my group coaching program is $4,000, and then one-on-one would start at $10,000. So it's $4,000 for 12 weeks currently, and then $10,000 if you want that one-on-one access. So in this case, it's close to 3x on the 4 between the 4 and the 10. That's how I would think about it, though. And I strongly recommend all of you, once you deliver content live a few times, to go ahead and create a course, because then again, if someone can't afford you live for one reason or another, you can have that course that has all the same information available to them. So do yourself a favor and make sure to do that. And let me know if you need some more clarification on that one. All right. Got a question from Xavier Chang here. Okay, so he's saying, I completed my audience research today and it was enlightening. Awesome. Yeah, and I know that's the tough part too, because a lot of people just charge in like, oh yeah, how do I start posting on Instagram? It's like, well, no, you have to learn about your audience first. And that's how you know what their problems are, how to solve them, how to communicate with them. So super important. And you're saying, after writing up my market research questions, I'm now ready to send out my surveys through various channels. What are your thoughts on requesting feedback from former/current clients, prospects, accountability partners, and other business partners? I would say, first of all, I admire you for being so willing to reach out to this many individuals. I would also say, make sure you're getting feedback from the right people. And from what I'm seeing, it sounds like you are. But I remember when I used to teach these courses at General Assembly, sometimes people that were in the courses, they were just like the wrong audience in general to be there, and they didn't enjoy it, or it wasn't as fulfilling for them because they should not have taken the course. So whenever you're getting feedback from people, make sure it's someone who's aligned with your target audience. Now, the best audience you'll ever have, back to your point, would be former or current clients, because they are willing to pay to solve their problems, right? You always want to get information from someone who's willing to pay to solve their problems. So on my end, when I was doing my research, I reached out to some people and they're like, oh, I already work with a coach. I'm like, that's fine. What could they have done to have made you pay, more for their service? How could that have been improved? So on and so forth. So yeah, I think you're spot on. So long as all these people that you're listing here are aligned with your target audience, I think it's a good idea. And when you're doing that outreach, I'll explain what I did to everybody. I reached out to over 200 consultants on LinkedIn. And I said, hey, look, I know I'm coming out of the blue here, But I'm wondering if you could just answer a few questions about, your role as a consultant and some of the daily challenges that come up, as well as what a solution might look like. There's a script for this in the course, by the way, so don't worry about writing it down right now. But I saved that outbound script, which I sent as a LinkedIn connection request as a text shortcut in my phone. So I could push a few buttons and it would just spit it out, and I could send off several at a time. I sent off 200 in about 6 hours, and I got about 43 responses within a few days. So that's what I would do, is just make it more of a process as opposed to a task. Awesome. Yep, no problem. Okay, got another question. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. Is it Saroshi? And just let me know in the comments if I have that correct. I'm going to make sure I get this right. And while you're waiting to chime in on that, close. All right, well, get me closer. I want to be respectful of that. Sharoshi. Is that correct? Sharoshi? Awesome. Sharoshi. Got it. Thank you. All right. So the question is, do you charge 10K no matter what the size of the business or scope that you consult with? Okay, so let's be clear. That 10K, that's only for individuals. And by that, I mean an individual that's going through my coaching program where it's all very structured from the beginning. So it's not like they have, multiple people that are coming to talk to me, so on and so forth. It's just going to be for an individual. For a business, no, it depends on the how many people I'm training and what the scope of their needs are. So, example, I was saying earlier, I'm training that consulting agency in Canada. They have, I believe, 10 consultants that I'll be working with to help them with content marketing and LinkedIn marketing. That's a question you ask first, right? And I always say it jokingly. I always say, like, it starts at $10,000, but let me ask you some questions. First of all, how many people will be in attendance? You want to make sure, because they might say 3 or they might say 300. I'm like, well, if it's 300, that's a freaking conference. I gotta do way more than that. If you have that many people coming, but be prepared. If they say, well, how much more is it per person? You have to have that number prepared. So you would say, okay, well, it's $10,000 for up to 5 people. For every additional person, it's another $500. Whatever that looks like, don't say, oh, I got to think about it. You should have thought about it already, right? So you want to be prepared. Otherwise, it seems like you're not confident and you're making it up as you're going along. That said, I know sometimes we are making it up as we're going along. We try to stay like one question ahead of the audience and you'll be more successful, right? And after a while, you have all this stuff established. But to continue with your question, you're saying, I sometimes work with emerging architects or startups and struggle to justify pricing at the same across the board. So yeah, I mean, it depends. I think about the upside they're going to get from it, right? A very small, architect or a firm, if that's what you call it, is not going to get the same upside as someone who's very successful. And I'll give you an example. One of my colleagues, he's a public speaking coach. And depending on how established that person is, his rates vary. Because someone's getting $10,000, $20,000 a speech, they have a lot more to gain from getting better at speaking, as opposed to someone who's just starting out. And the nuances that you have to go through with someone who's much more experienced often require more effort, maybe more research on your end. So that's why. And then thinking about the ROI model, I see a question here. I'd also love to learn more about the ROI model. I've been jumping around the courses because I have to send a proposal to a prospective client recently. Okay, well, let's get you some help quickly. So the ROI model is based on you understanding, as per the term, what the return on investment is. But that means you have to ask questions to see what the upside is. So let's pretend you help people set up their CRM systems, their customer relationship management systems, and you figure out they get like 1,000 leads per quarter. Their conversion rate's like 10%, so that'll be 100 clients, and their average deal value is like $5,000. So that'll be $50,000. If you help them increase their conversion rate by 20%, they would get 2 more clients and they would make another $10,000. I'm not gonna do the math, but you get the point. So what you would say is based on how much incremental revenue I'm making you, this is how much I'm going to charge, right? And you normally want to give people between a 5 and 7x return on the investment in you, because that way it's obviously a deal. And then beyond that, they won't say, well, hell, we could have figured this out ourselves. We're bringing you in as an expert. Now, what you might also find if they're an emerging architect, they're like, I don't price myself that way. You would say, well, look, I'm going to help you just, grow your career much more efficiently. You make how much a year? Run 100,000. Well, hell, if you work with me, you're going to easily land more deals, and maybe you charge 10,000 a deal. Okay, so that's 2, 3 deals I can help you get. That's $30,000 this year, and next year, and next year, and next year. Where many consultants fail is they don't think about the long-term value of the information you are giving people. It's not just that quarter or that year; it's forever if they're paying attention, right? So don't sell yourself short by saying, oh, well, it was only a quarter. It only took me 10 weeks. Yeah, but it's going to help them for 10 years, right? That's how the education model at school works. When you go to college, they don't just charge it for the 4 years. It's like, here's the rest of your life. So that's the way you want to think about it. And let me know if you have more questions on that as well. Oh, and then while we're on this, don't just focus on ROI, focus on COI. Yes or no in the chat here. Have you heard of COI before? COI. Xavier saying not yet. Rick, no. Shiroshi, oh, very helpful. Cool. Good here. Okay, no. So COI is the conflict of interest. That it could be, but not in this case. Yeah, it's going to be the cost of inaction. So you're going to say, all right, let's just talk. And I'll just go through the whole process here. You want to have some questions prepared to get to this ROI conversation. Don't read a script because it's very obvious. But you want to say, okay, so, what's going on? Why are we talking today? Just give me some background. Do not fall for the trick where you just start talking about yourself the whole time, because you'll start stumbling on your words. You'll wonder if they're paying attention. It's going to bomb. So just get that information out of them. What's going on, and what's the impact it's having on their business, right? And then another question I'd love to ask is, what would need to happen in order for you to be happy about our time together? What change would need to occur? In my example, I was saying their conversion rate would go up. Well, how much would it go up? 20%. Okay, 20%, we can do that. So if it went up 20%, how much more revenue would you bring in? About $100,000. Okay, cool. So if you go up by 20%, you'll make another $100,000 in revenue. Is that per quarter or per year? Right? Dig down into it. Per quarter. All right, cool. So, well, listen, here's what I can do for you. I'm going to help you streamline this, do that, so on and so forth. When they ask about the price, you already know what the upside is for them. Then you can say, all right, well, based on this, it's going to be $20,000, right? You have to ask these questions, and you might feel uncomfortable at first, but what's even more uncomfortable is not knowing how much to charge, right? Because you have no idea. Is this too little? Is this too much? So on and so forth. So ask those questions. But if you want to sound more intelligent when you're asking questions, also start inferring. So when they say things like, yeah, our conversion rate is low, you must say, okay, so that probably has a negative impact on morale too, because, you have all these leads coming in. For some reason, people aren't, signing on, and people are like wondering what's wrong. Am I correct in that? Yeah, it's so frustrating. Is that also causing some churn? Are people leaving because they can't hit their number because you're losing so many deals? Yeah, our churn's horrible, so on and so forth. So start inferring questions as well. Even if you're wrong, it shows you're thinking from their perspective, right? That way you can ask these questions that are more granular, like how much more money, is on the table here. Now, getting back to COI, that's the cost of inaction. So they describe all these scenarios. They're like, hey, we're losing all these deals. People are quitting. No one wants to work here. You would say, all right, so what happens if you do nothing? We might go out of business, or hell, I'll never get a break because I'm the one closing all the deals because no one else knows how to do it better. That's why we need a better system. So really just, you want to really harp on that challenge that they'll continue to face, including, going out of business if they don't work with you. COI, the cost of inaction. All right. That's what we want to focus on. And then if you still get pushback, you're going to say, okay, well, listen, other than price, what would prevent you from moving forward today? What else, based on what I've described, would prevent you from moving forward right now? Just get all their objections off the table. If the only thing is price, you would say, look, you're going to make another $20,000 per quarter or whatever that number is going forward. So that's $80,000 this year, 160 next year, quarter million within the next 3 years. I'm charging $20,000 for that, right? So just be open and honest and do some math and say, this is an investment in your future, in your business, right? So hopefully that helps. That's the way I would navigate those conversations, but you have to ask the tough questions, right? That's how you do it. Yeah. And Xavier's saying, are these scripts in the course? Yeah, they are, Xavier. So all those scripts are in the course. And I would also say, if you have not already taken a look at the coaching and consulting playbook, you want to look there as well, because we go through the same scenarios. So yeah, you will have access to that. And just reach out to me if you can't find it as well. Yeah. So we're going deeper in the conversation about ROI. She's saying, I help them respond to RFPs better, which vary in value based on the potential clients. So they could be making a large range in revenue with these tools that they learn from me, but they won't get shortlisted more for sure if they used my framework. They would get shortlisted more for sure. Okay, so yeah, what you're saying is even if they don't win deals, they're going to be more likely to get deals going forward. Yeah, so you're providing a ton of value, right, to these individuals. And these are architects, so they're going to think logically. If you have a good foundation, you're going to build a stronger home, right? I mean, don't get corny with it, but you know what I mean, right? just say that. And let's stick with that, right? Whenever you can put something in someone else's terms that aren't related directly to what you're talking about, your service, it makes it more easy for them to understand the value. So if you can say, hey, you're an architect, you get how it goes. You're building a foundation now. I'm helping you build a foundation that's going to be stronger, then everything else you do on top of it's going to be much more secure. So don't get poetic with it, but that's what I would do. All right, let's get some more questions here. That way you don't hear the helicopters buzzing above. Hopefully everything's all good there. But yeah, those sales conversations, here's the thing. Let's be clear. You're not pitching anything. There's no pitch going on. You're diagnosing a challenge. And this is what I always say. If you went to a doctor right now and you said you were under the weather and they just said, okay, well, here's a prescription, you would say, what the heck? Don't you at least want to talk a little bit? So you're having a conversation. You're diagnosing their problems. And you're saying, you know what, based on what you're saying, I have a solution for you. And here it is. And here's how much it's going to cost. But you will solve this problem. That's why that other question I said, what would be your desired outcome of working with me? What would have to happen in order for you to be happy about our time together? And if you can deliver on that, then yeah, that's what you mentioned. If you can't, you got to pass. And in fact, since we have some time here, yesterday I was talking to this woman, amazing woman. Liked her a lot. I've also been in contact with her husband, both good people. And she wanted to learn more about my coaching program, my group coaching program. But she didn't necessarily have the clarity needed for that level of support. And I was like, this is not going to work for you because the system that I have is all based on having some initial clarity. And if you're in the program and the clock is ticking, it's 12 weeks, you're going to get left behind. I'm like, if you have the course like all of you do, it's different. You can take a week, a month, whatever it is to get more clarity. And that's what you do in module 2. You get clarity on what you want to do, how you want to help these people, or who you want to help, how you want to help them, how much you're going to charge as well. You do all that clarity in module 2, and then you can move forward with everything else. But with her, I'm like, if you're doing this in a live program, you're going to feel left behind because you're still trying to get clarity in week 2. Whereas we're talking about things like creating your lead magnet and stuff like that. So in some cases you have to say, look, I like you. I wish I could help you. I can't. And just move on. And I've done that twice in the last 2 weeks, just saying, I can't help you, politely, obviously. Who's done that recently? Anyone else had to say no to someone for one reason or another? Just can't work with you? It's one of those hard conversations to have. And when I first started consulting, instead of being upfront about it, I would just lie. I would say, oh, sorry, I'm not taking any more clients. And they'd see me on LinkedIn a day later, like, hey, if you need help, reach out to me. It's like, dude, you obviously are taking clients. So, why'd you just tell me that you're not taking clients when you're clearly begging for help or work on LinkedIn? So now I'm just more upfront about it. Rick, you said you have recently. If you don't mind sharing some of your experience as to why, that'd be great. Xavier saying, not yes, all yeses for the first 2 years. Yeah, man. I mean, here's the thing. Like I always say, even as a seller, you should always be the buyer. Meaning, you should never work with someone that you don't feel comfortable with, right? For one reason or another. Um, or if they want you to cut your rates, and we could talk more about that too. And say, oh, don't do it. Just say no. Stick to your rates. But at the end of the day, if you got to pay your rent, don't turn it down just because some guy on a freaking Zoom told you not to, right? You have a responsibility to yourself and to your family first. But when you get to the level where you're comfortable and you can, be more picky and choosy, I'm not saying you're not at that level yet, then you want to say no more, especially these days, because there's enough stuff going on. You don't want to get on the phone at 3 o'clock and say, oh, great, I got to talk to Mark. You should never work with Mark. You should have said no in the first place. So that's something to think about, is being much more selective about who you work with, because if you don't, they will drain your energy and you can't show up as the best version of yourself for other people who might want to work with you. You've already been beat down by talking to Mark, right? So you're like, great, someone else, like, well, don't take it out on them, like get rid of Mark. And in the end, you'll be much better off for that. Yeah. Yeah, so Rick's saying, I use the approach if I can provide the right expertise for the high maintenance clients that don't value my expertise. Yeah, so if you can help them and they don't value it, what's the point? You want to feel, yeah, I got you. You want to feel appreciated, right? So it's like, what's the point? Yeah. Yeah, and anyone I just straight up can't help, I'm like, I can't. And that's the way it goes. So got to be honest with yourself one way or another. But come on, let's get some more questions here. Curious to see how else I can help, because I know there's got to be more as you're going through this content. Did I struggle with imposter syndrome when it came to pricing? I'm just starting and doing it alongside my day job, so I can only take 1 to 2 clients a month max on the one-on-one model, but hoping to get the course finished so it can be easier to work with more people. Let me start by saying my experience was different than yours when I first started coaching or consulting. I did not have a day job, so I was not constrained like you are. Did I struggle with imposter syndrome? Yeah, badly, which was ridiculous looking back, because I had just left Facebook. I worked at Adobe as well. I worked at other agencies in New York City. I was, legit. But here's the problem. Like when you work in-house, there's a few things that happen. You hear $50 an hour and that sounds like a lot, right? Because I think that backs into like $100,000 a year, $50 an hour. But that's if you're working 40 hours a week, right? And getting paid consistently for 40 hours. As a consultant or a coach, you're probably not going to be billing 40 hours a week. So you have to charge way more than that. And then beyond that, you might be paying for healthcare, a co-working space once things open up, whatever it is. So I want to say that first, but did I struggle with imposter syndrome? Yeah. I remember this one woman, I told her my rates, and she said, wow, you're cheap. And I'm like, you could at least said that behind my back, like, what? Come on, really? Like, so yeah, I did. I think I started charging like $50 an hour. Then I went to 100. And then I saw this woman who I knew in my heart that I was like better than at Facebook ads, but she was charging, I think, $3.95 an hour. And I was like, what the hell, is this working? Well, it wasn't. And let me explain why. It's because she didn't want hourly clients. She wanted packages, right? She wanted people to buy a package. So she had her hourly rate so high, it would make the packages look cheaper, right? So if anyone wants to stop by for an hour, sure, she would take the $3.95, but really her goal is to say, give me $2,500, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for the month, not $400 for the hour. But either way, when I saw her charging that much, that's when I raised my rates. And I've always heard it should be fear plus 30%, or double it, but more is what I'm saying. Because when you're on a sales call, your close rate should be 30% or higher, That's the industry average. If you're not closing at least 30% of people that you get on the phone, something's wrong. Maybe it is your price, but you should expect plenty of no's. That's how it goes, right? And then you would adjust, how you present yourself, who you are attracting, so on and so forth, but you're going to get no's. So in your case, since you can only have one or two clients a month, hell, I would start out fairly high because you don't need a bunch of clients, right? You're saying, look, I'm busy. I have stuff going on. I can help you, but if you don't want to pay my value, then someone else will come along too. So I think it's great you can do this. So you can build up that confidence without the constraints that I had, which was needing to, pay pay my rent or whatever. But yes, I struggled with it, and I got over it. And what's going to happen is as more of you start getting testimonials, feedback, people saying thank you so much, you're going to realize your true value of how much you're helping people. And I don't ever want that to get old for you or for me. So what I did early in my career is I started a folder in my Gmail that just said, like, praise or compliments, and I would save those so I can go back and look at them. Because, and Rick is going to allude to your question, I think you have to front load yourself with confidence by having epic thoughts developed in your head. And an epic thought is when you actually write down things that you've done in the past that were difficult and you achieved, right? So maybe you graduated high school, maybe you did get that first big client, whatever it is. You have to write these down, at least 10 of them, to remind yourself that you can do it. Because confidence comes from experience, not just cheering yourself up. You're not going to say, I can do it. You're going to say, I have done it. So save all those things, because that's how you front load yourself with that confidence, by doing these epic thoughts. All right. So we got a question from Rick. He's saying, your example vision statement in the workbook is very exhaustive and addresses a number of areas. I feel more comfortable with a tighter focus on the business and then to cover other areas separately. Any concern about that approach? So Rick, what it sounds like is you want to get really clear on your business, what your goals are there, and not really the vision for your life. And I would strongly encourage you to get deeper on that vision because of this. You're going to go through some challenges. It's going to be tough, right? Last week, I spent 6 hours setting up a ConvertKit through Zapier, also using my website. And then I had to do something else with HubSpot to populate all my deals there as well. And you're going to, you're going to go through some stuff. But if you want to achieve this vision you have for your life, more than you want to avoid all the challenges that will come up, all the disappointments, all the time you're doing things, you're like, I don't get paid enough for this, then you will be successful. But Rick, if you don't have that vision, you won't really see what's in it for you other than money. And then beyond that, if you just look at the way your brain works, there's two parts of your brain. There's the doing brain and the thinking brain. But the doing brain only does what the thinking brain thinks. So if you're not thinking, if you're not clear on what you actually want to do with this vision, then your brain's like, well, I don't know what that looks like. What does having $100,000 look like? I don't even know how to even get there, because I don't know what that vision looks like. So just be very clear on where your thoughts are with your vision. I would take the time to do it. And hey, Rick, if you want to take the easy way out, go to the Coaching Consulting Playbook. There is a part where you're writing your biography, and you're going to just write a forward-looking bio. That's all I'm going to ask you to do, Rick, is write a forward-looking bio, which means you're going to write down some things that are true about your background and like 3 or 4 things that you want to happen. If you do that, I'll meet you in the middle. If you do that, you will, in effect, have a bit of your vision statement. Like in 2021, Rick did this. In 2022, he spoke at this conference, whatever makes sense to you. Just do that. It's in the playbook under the section for branding. So if you can't find it, scroll around a little bit or check in with me. But yeah, that's what you would do. All right. Long answer, but hopefully that helped. Question from Cynthia is, how would you go about charging more for your coaching programs? By how much do you increase it, and how often based on your experience? How do you go about charging more? Well, the first thing is getting feedback from current coaching members, program members, and just hearing about the impact it had on them. And then from there, getting a testimonial. So you can put those on your website, maybe even referrals, because That third party validation is very important. And I know what you're going to say, hey, Terry, I'm just starting out. I don't have that yet. You will. But once you have that validation where someone's saying, he helped me make this much more money, so on and so forth, that's when you can charge more. So one of my testimonials on my website is this woman saying that I helped her make another $50,000 per year within, I think, like 10 weeks or so of working with her. Another person talks about how he quit his job because he made more as a consultant after going through my program, I think for like 2 months or so. That's how you charge more. It's when you deliver better outcomes that you can prove. And to the earlier point, when you get over imposter syndrome, right? And what I've had happen before is I've asked people after they left my program, hey, how much would you have paid for this? Knowing what you know now, how much would you have paid for this? And one person said $10,000. And I'm like, okay, well, we should probably think about that next time. Right. So that's one way, Cynthia. Another is looking at comparable programs and seeing how much they're charging. And I'll mention I used to teach at digital marketing at General Assembly, a school that teaches the skills of tomorrow. I would teach a 10-week digital marketing course. We would meet 2 hours a week, twice a week, and it was $4,000 for the students to enroll. They paid that to General Assembly. So I'm like, well, hell, other people have paid $4,000 for a course from me before, from coaching from me before. I'm still worth that. And that's why I chose to go with the rate that I have. Question is, well, how much do you increase it and how often? I raised the rate of my course, my coaching program from $3,000 to $4,000 this year. Actually, you got 8 more days if anybody wants to. So yeah, from 3,000 to 4,000, it's going to go up to 5,000 probably by the end of Q2. So the jumps are based on the feedback you're getting. I would say at least 20% a good idea, but that's how much. And Cynthia and everybody else, whenever you're going to do a price increase, announce it in advance. Say, hey, everyone, you're on my list or you're reading this on social media. By the way, I'm raising my prices January 15th. If you want to lock in the current rate, you can do so. You can put down a deposit before the rate goes up and book with me anytime within the next 3 months. That's what I did last year. I said, you can put down a deposit now. So long as you start the program within the next, in Q1, you still get that rate. So I highly recommend doing a price increase. And Cynthia, I announced that on Black Friday, I think. I was like, guess what? No discounts. There's actually an increase. So if you want to get that price now, then you need to go ahead and sign up. And I did book a large number of people just doing that. So hopefully that helps. Cool. So Xavier's saying, I'm working on the packages route and thinking about 3 options in a high hourly. Any advice on pricing? So if you're doing hourly, Xavier, the best way to raise your price is to have people submit information in advance. Because if we get on the call right now and I'm like, hey, Xavier, what's up? Like, what's your URL again? Wait, was it .com or .co? It's like, dude, what? But if you're like, look, you prepare in advance, send me your information, I'll prepare in advance, that we're going to have an action-packed, hour together. And what I did recently is just that. I now have power hours where you can meet with me and we'll go over your one-page business plan or anything you want to talk about, your LinkedIn strategy. We'll actually write your LinkedIn post if you want, and that's $500. But I'm preparing in advance, so it's money well spent. It's $500 right now. It's going to be $795 by Q2 because I'm already getting testimonials from people saying how impactful it was, especially because I'm having some of them fill out that one-page business plan first. So hell, someone's going to review my my business plan for $500. Sign me up. So all of you should think about that too, right? What can you have someone fill out in advance? A business plan, a digital marketing plan, their RFP, if you're an architect or whatever. Have them do that stuff in advance. That way, there's an increased impact of that time together, right? So you said you're thinking about 3 options. Hopefully that helps. I don't know what your other packages are, Xavier, so I would need more input to say like how much to charge. But what I would say is you always want to give people something to say no to. So there should be some package that's super, super expensive. It's $75,000 and I'll stay there for a week. because they're going to say, look, I don't want that, but I will take this other stuff. So when I was doing digital marketing consulting, I had various packages, and one of them included me picking out the creative for the ads. And I charged like a really high price for that. And they're like, dude, we're not paying you that much for that. We'll take all the other stuff, but we're not going to pay you to pick out creative. I was like, okay, cool. I didn't want to pick out creative. I just wanted all the other stuff. So if you can just list out what you have, it's another way for me to give you more bespoke input. But let's go back. Give people something that's easy to say yes to as well. So in the section, when we talk about pricing and even in the one-page business plan, you see that funnel where there's like 3 steps. There's the lead magnet, there's the tripwire. That's something between like $15 and $300. So that could be an online course, it could be like an hour of consulting. There's your core product that could be like between like $1,000 and $20,000. And then your profit multiplier. You all are required to have a profit multiplier. This is something you're charging $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for. Whatever that makes sense for, based on your scale of what you sell, you need to have something that's very expensive. So even if you only sell like 4 a quarter or 4 a year even, you're doing very well. So you want to make sure that you have those 3 tiers. The tripwire, which could be something between sub $300 or so, the core product, and then that profit multiplier. Those are all non-negotiables. All right, Walden, got a question here. For those still working full-time in a corporate position while building a coaching consulting business on evenings and weekends, any insights regarding the best way to handle scheduling calls, interviews, etc. during non-business hours? Yeah, Walden, I mean, for me, I live in New York, so I have a lot of clients that are in California. So if we talk at 7 my time, it's 4 their time. So if you're willing to do that, and I'm not sure where you live, in regards to time zones, that's one way to do it. You could also say, hey, look, right now I'm time constrained. I can only talk on the weekends or at night. Maybe it's night their time too. But that's how it goes. But Walden, that's where the vision comes in. That's why the vision's so important, because you're saying, look, this is temporary. 2 years from now, I'm going to be in my own office doing this stuff at regular times of the day, and I'm not going to be tired. I'm not going to have to worry about, my wife waking up or whatever it is. But this is the entry cost for me to get into this new life that I want. And that is what it is. But if you have a vision, you're like, look, here's what my life's going to look like, later, then it's all worth it. So I would say right now, you got to grind it out a little bit. You got to get creative, because you don't want to, obviously sacrifice your full-time job. But that's what I would say. I'm only available on the weekends. And I think a lot of people will be willing to work with you so long as you present that value in a way that's, to them like a no-brainer. So yeah, I hear you. So Xavier's saying he had a 38% close rate last year where my price is too low. Is a 30% benchmark different per channel? So that 30% benchmark, that's something you'll get from Salesforce. And it's like, whenever you hear data, you got to say, like, what's the source of this? It's people who can afford Salesforce. That's where the data is coming from. So it's more like a rule of thumb than like if you're not doing this, you're messing up. But I have to give you some number. Otherwise it's like, oh, well, it depends. You can't say it depends in that case. So if you're at 38% where your price is too low, I don't know, did you meet your revenue goal? You know what I mean? Like, that's the way to think about it. Because if your prices were higher, would your conversion rate have gone down? Test and see. But I think 38%, if you're hitting your revenue goals, that sounds fine to me. I mean, and is it different per channel? Oh yeah. I mean, if someone comes to me through a referral, meaning another person I know referred them, then the close rate is pretty high. It's ridiculously high. It's probably around 90%, maybe 85. And then if they hear me speak at an event and then later, contact me, probably closer to 50. So that's what mine looks like. And that's how I usually attract people, is those two options. Oh, Xavier's saying I primarily got projects through Upwork last year. I would consider not doing that, just because Upwork, everyone's looking for a deal. And I think it's great to get some traction there, but Now that you're 2 years in, I would not do that as often just because everyone there is trying to somewhat find a deal. And I think it's unfair pressure put on providers of service on Upwork because anyone who uses your service can give you a bad review because they had a bad day, right? They stubbed their toe in the morning. Oh, Xavier's horrible and my toe hurts. It's like, come on, dude, like that was you, right? So I think it's great. What I would do, Xavier, is I would build your brand outside of Upwork, but I would take the the positive momentum that you started there. So I would like take screenshots of some like your 5-star reviews. I would put those on my website. They'd be on social media. I would also just take the text from some of them and put them in a program like Canva to make them look even better. And like every third tile on your Instagram is going to be one of those, or once a week on LinkedIn, you would put that up too. But I would take all that goodwill that you've generated on Upwork and I would seek to use different channels to start attracting people as well. Because the 38% might have been because you're, like, oh, this guy is actually charging his true value. What the hell? It's like, yeah, I got bills to pay. And I live in New York, right? So that's how it goes. Yeah. So Rick was saying, follow up here. I feel clear about the other parts of my life. I want to make sure I'm laser focused. I will still fit in the rest of life. Awesome. Yeah, that's good. And Rick, let's just talk about focus real quick, right? There's this really good book called The One Thing by, great, I think it's Gary Keller. And there's a focusing question. And I ask myself this question quite often. It goes like this: what's the one thing I could do such by doing so, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? I'll say it again. What's the one thing I could do such that by doing so, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? So when you get really clear on that one thing, you're going to look and say, okay, well, here's the stuff I have going on today. How does that align with my one thing? Not doing that, not doing that, not doing that. Because then you can do goal setting to the now. You would say, what's the one thing this quarter? What's the one thing this month, this week, today, right now? And whenever you find yourself not doing that one thing, you snap out of it because you're like, look, if I nail this other thing, this one thing, I'm going to be super successful. So I strongly recommend trying that out. The one thing, it's called the focusing question. All right, Cynthia, got a question here. How can I better position myself for more speaking opportunities? I'll tell you what I'm doing. And you're going to think, Terry, really? Yeah, really. What I'm doing, Cynthia, and everybody else, is I'm reaching out to libraries. I'm reaching out to libraries and I'm offering to do free talks about like how to start a consulting business or how to leverage LinkedIn to grow your personal brand. Because I've done that before. When I first started consulting, I would go to the Brooklyn Public Library. I can almost see it out of my window here. And I would go there. They would promote it to everyone on their list. 100 people would show up. 20 people would ask me a question. 2 of them became clients. Can't do that anymore in person, but I can do it remotely. So I actually have already signed on with doing one for a library in Round Rock, Texas. But when you do a speaking engagement, everyone listen in here. If you're kind of zoning out, zone back in. Here's how you build your brand. All right. Here's how you build this image. Whenever you do a speaking engagement, a few things. One is when you start initially, say, hey, everyone, I'm glad to be here. Look, quick housekeeping. If you take any screenshots or pictures during this, please share them with me on social because I love to share them with my audience too. That way you're telling people you should be taking pictures and they're like, okay, cool, I guess I'll take pictures, right? If you're doing it remotely like we are now, change your name, your screen name to your social handle so it's easier for them to find you. Every fifth slide or so, stop and say, oh, you're going to want to grab a screenshot of this one. This one's amazing. Grab a screenshot of this one, right? That way they'll post that. And then beyond that, what you would say is, hey, look, everybody, I want us all to crowdsource, our key takeaways. So when you do share these posts on social media, can you just write some of your key takeaways? What did you enjoy about the session? You're going to reshare all these things, but you're growing your brand that way. And then afterwards, you can post about it on social media. You can have it on your website and you can say, I spoke about this. Here's the feedback. It was amazing, so on and so forth. So you would do that. And then let's go deeper, Cynthia. If you want to get more speaking opportunities, create the perfect speaking topic. And we cover this in the course, we cover this in the playbook. There's a section on how to create your speaking topic. So if I want to talk to a bunch of manufacturing engineers, I would create a topic: 10 things manufacturing engineers need to going into 2021, right? If I want to talk to a bunch of stay-at-home dads, it would be 5 things every stay-at-home dad needs to know in regards to whatever. Put the audience in your title, make it bespoke for your audience, then reach out to an organization that already has access to them and say, hey, look, I would love to speak to your audience about this. It's so on and so forth in 2021. What do you say? So you just create the perfect opportunity for someone to say yes to you. If you want to increase your chances of getting a yes, you would then say, oh, and I have this great PDF, this guide, whatever I can share with them too. So yes or no in the chat, do any of you have a lead magnet? A lead magnet, some kind of giveaway that you can give someone in exchange for their email address typically? It could be a guide, it could be a checklist, anything like that. Work on it in Q1. All right, cool, cool. Juana does, Cynthia does, Walden does, yeah. You mention that when you reach out. Oh, and by the way, I can also give them this so they can apply what they've learned. So that's how you do it. And then I'll also say this: when you're doing that outreach, you can use a tool called Mixmax, Mixmax. That's also in the guide, by the way. That way you can just create a template and just get those emails out quicker. I give you the script, by the way, for what to say when you're reaching out in the course. I'll say it now more or less though. The subject line is quick question, and you're going to say, hey, I'm just wondering if you ever bring in speakers to talk about this. I do this for this audience. I think it'd be a good fit for your audience because of this. Here's a sample topic. What do you think? If you'd like to book a call with me, you can do so here through this link. That would link to your Acuity account or Calendly, whatever you use to book calls, or happy to continue the conversation via email as well. So that's what you would do. You would set up that template. And again, that's all in the course. If you wanted to, you could also automate a follow-up email that goes out 2 weeks later. Hey, just wanted to make sure you saw this. You know, I know how busy it gets. Again, would love to talk to your audience about this. What do you say? That's how you get more speaking opportunities. But Cynthia, once you start speaking, people know that you're a speaker, so they'll start reaching out to you, right? It gets much easier. Also on your website, you can have a speaking section too to make it very clear. But that's the way to do it. Hopefully that's clear. If not, let me know. Speaking is one of the easiest ways for you to grow your brand and your revenue. And some of you are saying, Terry, like, I'm not a good public speaker. Right now, I'm talking to a freaking computer, you know? So again, like, you don't have to like do these things in person right now, maybe never again. Because even though I live in New York City, even pre-COVID, I wasn't doing as many in-person events as I could because I got 3 kids at home, right? I don't want to be traveling all around Manhattan and then have to try to rush back to Brooklyn to put my kids to sleep, right? So for anyone who's a little shy, and I talk about this in the course too, for anyone who's a little shy, now is your chance. Because seriously, I'm talking to a computer, like, you know, in my apartment. Like, you know, no one's, you know, checking their cell phones in front of me, and like there's, you know, no racing hard or anything. So I would build that skill set up. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't a good speaker publicly when I first started. I'm lucky that I had the chance to, but I wasn't good, just because I didn't know like some of the tips and tricks or whatever. And it's funny, I spoke at Amazon last year, and I'm not humble bragging. I'm just bringing this up. I spoke at Amazon, and these people came up to me afterwards, and they were like, "That was really good. We can tell you're not a trained speaker, but that was really good." I'm like, "Really, dude? You could have just left that part out." Like, but like they were just saying like they appreciated the value, but that I still was like not like the classically trained speaker or whatever. But I'm like, you know, that is what it is, you know. So yeah, I would seriously consider that route in regards to just growing your brand. It makes it so much easier, right? Question. I imagine this is covered in the course, but can you talk about lead funnel for consulting work, speaking gigs, lead magnet consulting work? Okay, yeah. So what's it look like? Well, the first thing is you would follow the first process where I was like, okay, you know, go ahead and you know, pitch yourself as a speaker. And then when you get this opportunity to speak, you're going to have some easy way for them to follow up with you to get on your email list. The easiest thing, if you don't have a lead magnet, is to say, if you want a copy of the slides, go here. So what I normally do is I'll make a bit.ly link. It'll say like bit.ly, like whatever the date is, whatever the organization is, go here to get a copy of the deck, and then they'll go to my website to download it, right? So you can do that if you don't have a lead magnet yet. But either way, once they do that, and even on the landing page to get that deck or whatever it is, you would say, by the way, if you want to learn more about my services, here's what I do. And then maybe they'll engage, maybe they won't. But then once they hit submit, you have to have another page that comes up and says, hey, your deck is on the way, or your lead magnet is on the way. While you're waiting, check this out. And it's going to say all the services that you have, right? So from there, again, you're starting that funnel. Then when they get the lead magnet, you're going to say, here's your guide or whatever. At the bottom, you're going to say, PS, I know there's a lot of information here. If you want to chat about it one-on-one, book a call with me. I would love to walk through this and learn more about your business. All right. I use a tool called ConvertKit for that. 4 days later, 5 days later, you're going to say, hey, just want to check in, see how things are going with that guide. I know there's a lot of information there. And, like the best way to get started is to get started. And, you're going to set yourself up for success. It's going to be amazing. But again, if you want to talk to me, here's a good way to do it. Week later, hey, you still working on that? Again, like, this is not easy stuff, but I hope I made it clear. Really lean into this. It's going to help you out so much. And just again, you're not alone if you feel challenged. And to reiterate, would love to talk to you about this. Click here to book a call. So do that for like 4 emails, and then after that, if they don't respond, just move them to your other newsletter list. So move them on to your traditional newsletter. That's all you have to do. That will take you 6 hours to set up. And you're going to say, oh, Terry, I'm not a good writer. Mess up. That's fine. Fix it later, right? Like, you're not going to know what's good and bad until you screw up. So you want to look and see what your conversion rate is from that, the initial offer, the landing page, the emails, whatever, but you're never going to know if you don't get started. So you have to kind of lean into that uncertainty and say, hey, like, I just got to shoot my shot and see what happens. And sure, do your best. Don't just like haphazardly do it, but that's how you get better, right? So lean into that. And I would strongly recommend setting that up soon, because especially if you're doing these talks for free, you got to be getting something out of it besides, an Instagram shout out. So set yourself up for success. And I always say my personal philosophy is to be purpose driven, prepared, and patient. And that prepared part is what we're talking about right now, where it's like, okay, I'm going to put my website on every 5th slide. I'm going to have this lead magnet. I'm going to sit down and learn ConvertKit. I'm going to, follow up with this Acuity, and so I can book these calls, so on and so forth, right? Do that, because once it's set up, you're just chilling. And I'll give you an example. I posted on LinkedIn, I think it was Monday, about that 1-page business plan for coaches and consultants. And I wasn't even casual about it. I was like, hey, I have this business plan. If you want to, click here, download. Within a day, I got 134 people that downloaded it. So I set it up at like 9 a.m. I went and raised my kids. Like, I was with my daughter for remote kindergarten. But by the end of the day, 134 people had downloaded that PDF, and some of them already bought from me too, right? Just because I had this stuff set up. So you can, going back to what we were saying before, with Rick and a few other people, you can just do the things you enjoy in life more when you're automating all this back office stuff. Is it hard? Depends on the operational definition of hard, but you'll get through it because you're not inventing anything. It's like, there are directions that say push this button. Okay, now push that one. So do that. And you can then go, chill while you have everything automated in the back end. That's all you have to do. So hopefully that helps. It's like Rick has to run. He's saying, Terry, I love your approach and style. Looking forward to our future group coaching calls. Future group coaching on Thursdays. I'm sure I'll have more questions as I go. Cool. Awesome. Rick, glad to hear that. And I'm looking forward to talking to you as well. So I will be here. but we're right at the top of the hour. I can grab any additional questions if you want. Otherwise, I'll see you here next Thursday. But I am going to leave you with one more thing. One of my mentors suggested this to do this at the start of the year, and it's going to be a bit of a challenge. But you're going to think to yourself these things in 2021. What do I want to do, become, experience, learn, and what am I willing to sacrifice? So I'll say it one more time. In 2021, what am I willing to, or what am I going to do, become, experience, learn, and sacrifice? So I'm really looking forward to completing this exercise because I know it's going to be challenging, but it's like, well, this is what you decided, and the sacrifice part, especially, what are you willing to sacrifice? Maybe it is doing calls, late at night or on the weekends because you have a full-time job. But it's like, if you want to achieve this goal that you have, that's what it is. And then you will go ahead and reach that vision that you have for your business and your family. So if you want to do that, I'll say it one more time. What are you going to do, become, experience, learn, and sacrifice? So that is what I will leave you with. But everybody, this has been great. So thanks so much for tuning in. Again, we'll be here next Thursday. So keep those questions coming, and I wish you the best of luck. So take care. Yes, the recording will be up. Give me 24 hours with that one. But yes, this will be up. Thanks for asking. Take care. Thanks, everybody.